All right, what's happening, everybody? And I, like you, just got done watching The Last Dance episodes 3 and 4. Here's how excited I am about these Sunday nights during shutdown where we get to watch this great documentary. Someone sent me the full documentary, all 10 parts, uncut versions, which I guess, these are somewhat cut. They sent it to me Monday or Tuesday. And I did not watch it because I'm so excited about this Sunday night event that has happened. There's not a lot of sports events to look forward to during this shutdown. So I didn't want to ruin my Sunday night by watching it earlier. I'll go back and watch the uncut version during the week. But I just watched it live with everybody else. And so I want to give you my instant reactions. I'm going to give you three reactions or 3 points that stood out to me from each episode. Let's start with part 3, episode 3. The first thing that stood out, and I want people to learn from this, and people that didn't really get to see those players play live. You may watch them on YouTube and all that, hear the stories, see the highlights, but you really weren't watching basketball because of your age at that time. So I'm hoping I can give some insight to the younger generation about this as well. Number one, Dennis Rodman was a rebounding genius. Genius. I use that word purposely. I didn't say a great rebounder, a phenomenal rebounder, a genius. You heard him talking about his approach, how he actually would have guys at night shoot jump shots. So he would start to learn when it's taken from the right elbow, its chances are it's going to bounce here. When it's taken from the left corner, chances are the ball's going to bounce here. When it's taken from the top of the key, chances are the ball's going to bounce here. And he would go to those spots. He studied how different guys shot the ball, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, so he would know where the carom might come off the rim at. So that is genius. We see guys who are geniuses in different parts of the game. Michael Jordan, Kevin Durant, they are geniuses at scoring the ball. Steph Curry, Reggie Miller, they are geniuses at moving without the basketball. Magic Johnson, LeBron James, they are geniuses at seeing the whole court, passing the ball and getting everybody involved. There are certain guys who are geniuses at certain aspects of this game, and Dennis Rodman was a rebounding genius, period. All right, second thing that I got from episode 3. Michael Jordan, while many of us, I think most of us view him as the GOAT, the greatest player to ever lace him up. What we also saw, and if you look at his career, you'll see it, he is also evidence that a one-man team or a team that revolves too much around one player, no matter how great that player is going to have trouble winning championships, winning at the highest level. And we saw it with Michael Jordan. Look, Doug Collins, who coached him for 3 seasons, said it. When I coached Michael Jordan, he was Defensive Player of the Year. He was MVP. He did this and won the All-Star MVP and all the accolades, the scoring championships. And yet they never won. Jordan, listen to these numbers he averaged with Doug Collins. First year with Collins, 37 points a game on 48% shooting, which is good. So he was efficient. Also gave you 5 assists. Second year, 35.6 assists a game on 54% shooting. Next year, 32.5 points, 8 assists, 8 rebounds a game on 54% shooting. Those were the 3 years under Doug Collins. Phenomenal numbers. Yet, because the team was so Jordan-centric, okay? When you average 32, 8, and 8, 32 and 8 assists, you are creating pretty much everything. And when no matter how good you are, it is going to be tough to beat a team that has talent when you get to the finals, the conference finals, whatever it may be. I always point to Wilt Chamberlain, whose numbers are the best we've ever seen. When he was averaging 50 points, 44 points, 37 points, they weren't winning championships. He won 2 championships. His first year he won it, I think it was the 8th season of his career. He averaged 24 points a game, which was the lowest to that point in his career, okay? Then his second championship, he averaged 14 points a game. Now, he still had a lot left because he's shooting almost 60% from the floor, grabbing 19 rebounds a game, but he was not the focal, everything didn't revolve around him. He fit in with the team, and that's why he was able to win. And the same thing with Michael Jordan. When he bought into the triangle, the more team aspect with Phil Jackson, that's when he began winning. And we see it with LeBron. LeBron obviously is a very unselfish player, passing the ball, sharing the ball, getting everybody involved. But every place he's been, for the most part, a little different at times in Miami where he won the most, but everything's revolved around LeBron. And LeBron is the offense. I remember, in Cleveland, first of all, Miami second, second stop, back to Cleveland, now in LA, everything revolves around LeBron. He's either getting the hockey assist or the assist or scoring. And that's a tribute to his greatness individually, but it makes it tough to beat a 5-man unit that's got talent. We saw it with Michael, we saw it with Wilt, and we see it with LeBron. So that's the second takeaway. The third takeaway is that, well, let me see if I want to make one more point. No, I'll back away from that. I'll make that later. The third point from episode 3. I really believe Michael Jordan, I've heard people say it, I've dismissed it, but I really do believe now, when looking at it, Michael Jordan would average 40 points a game in today's NBA. That's my third point. Michael Jordan would average 40 in today's NBA. Heck, he averaged 37 back when they were hammering you going to the lane. Back when there was hand checking, back when nobody was really shooting the three-pointer. If you put Michael Jordan in today's NBA, where it is a cinch for talented players to get to the rim and finish, and when you get to the lane, you cannot get hammered. On your way to the lane, they cannot hand check you. And in today's climate where players focus more and practice the three-point shot more, Michael Jordan would have been an above-average three-point shooter. I'm not saying he would have been Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, anybody like that. But there's no question he'd be an above-average three-point shooter. He would average 40 points a game. There is no question in my mind. And I think anybody, honestly, looking at it objectively, looking at the way the game's changed, the way the game's called today, the emphasis on the three-point line, he would average 40. I firmly believe that. Because the numbers he was putting up, we saw them from no one else except Wilt Chamberlain. Even back then, they were otherworldly. And he would do the same thing today. 40 points a game is otherworldly. He would do it. I'm convinced. All right, that's episode 3. Now, episode 4. Here are the 3 things I learned from episode 4. And somewhat, this was in episode 3. We saw why Phil Jackson was such a great coach. And, arguably or definitely the GOAT, however you want to look at it. Phil Jackson did 2 things, great. Like you saw with the way he treated Dennis Rodman. Phil Jackson understood certain guys, you got to coach different. My ego may tell me, hell no, Dennis, you ain't going to Las Vegas in the middle of the season. But I understand this guy's different. I'm going to let him go. He didn't even come. He disrespected me. He didn't come back after the 48 hours. But I didn't. He's a different guy. We're going to go get him. And I get it. I need to coach him differently. He understood that. So he had that aspect to him. Yet, in certain things, he was non-negotiable. There were certain things where Phil Jackson didn't budge for anybody. When he first met Dennis Rodman at Jerry Krause's house, he said, he walked in to see Dennis and said, stand up, take your hat off, and shake my hand. That's a non-negotiable. You got to respect me from the get-go. With Michael Jordan, Jordan said, I didn't like Phil. He was taking the ball out of my hands. Phil didn't budge. This is how we going to play, Michael. And even saw it in the finals. Give the ball to Paxson. He's open. Like, there were certain non-negotiables. We saw Michael even saying, I didn't like the triangle. I thought it was BS. 5 seconds left on the clock, and you're giving the rock to Bill Cartwright or anybody else other than me? That's ridiculous. But Phil stood fast. I remember a story that the Cavaliers, if you remember during LeBron's first stint in Cleveland, Mike Brown's second or third year there, I think second year, they, again, for LeBron's early career, it had been so LeBron-centric, him doing everything. And the Cavs kind of recognized, the coaching staff, that we need to get more of an equal opportunity offense. So they began running the flex offense, which does get everybody involved. I ran that in college, okay? But they went away from that eventually because they said, you know what? With 5 seconds left on the clock, the ball's ended up in Anderson Varejão's hands, and LeBron's way on the other side of the court. And we going to have to trust Varejão to get a shot. Or Zydrunas, Ilgauskas, or someone else. They recognize, look, we got to get the ball to LeBron late, and so we can't run this offense. Maybe had they stood the course and suffered a little bit in the short term, maybe it would have panned out differently, or maybe not. But that is the first thing I saw. You could see why Phil Jackson was such a great coach. He had his non-negotiables, but then in other things, he was lenient and let guys, do their thing. You be you. All right, the second thing I learned from episode 4, and I knew this, but I think this is for the millennials. Michael Jordan was heavily criticized earlier in his career. I mean, really, before he won a championship. And I remember that time, he had the come fly with me videos. He had the best sneakers we've ever seen. He was the man. He was winning every scoring title, putting up all these numbers, and MVP, all that, dunk contest, but never won the big one. And he was heavily criticized for it. So a lot of athletes today feel like they get criticized unfairly because they haven't won a championship. It happened to Michael Jordan. And if it happened to Michael Jordan, it's going to happen to you. It's actually a sign of your greatness when people push you to that next level. So if they criticize James Harden because, yeah, you've done this, this, and this, but you haven't won it, Harden recognized you're in good company. Michael Jordan felt that type of wrath as well. Another part of this, though, is that I've always said today's athletes are somewhat unfairly criticized. And not unfairly, but just it's the technology, with the debate shows on television every day, the debate radio shows every day, the social media. Like, there is so much more technology that they're scrutinized for everything. And we looked at Michael Jordan, game 4 against the Cleveland Cavaliers. He missed a free throw at the end of game 4, and they lost. Now, if he did that today, he would be getting shellacked, especially when he had never won a playoff series in his career. He would be getting demolished. Okay? And Magic, when you saw at the end of episode 4, when Pippen was turning him all over the court and locking him up. Magic would be getting criticized beyond belief for letting somebody lock you up like that. And so it's just, this exemplifies how everybody's had their moments. LeBron James is not the first super duper star to miss a free throw at the end of a game or whatever it may be. You know, everybody's done it, and including Michael Jordan. So that is the second thing I learned. And then the third thing is that MJ still got some beef with the Detroit Pistons, apparently. I mean, he said Horace Grant, I think, said the hatred goes through to today. And I don't know when MJ was talking about Isaiah and he, called him an a-hole. I think he was talking about at that point in time, he was acting like, I think that's what he said. You can't tell me he wasn't acting like that, an a-hole, I don't know if he feels that way today, but it was interesting because I had Isaiah, we interviewed on Instagram Live, Facebook Live, all the social media outlets last week. And Isaiah said his personal interactions with Jordan recently, years ago, after they lost to the Bulls, have been fine. They've had no issues. And so I'm sure he was probably a bit surprised that, that it came out the way it did today. Now, I must say this. I was surprised, too, that MJ said it hurt him that they walked off the floor like that. And he said it hurt a lot. So I was a little surprised by that, maybe because they had lost so much to the Pistons. He wanted, and he's right, in the previous years, he had always given them love when they lost. Maybe he wanted that, returned. But Isaiah is right in that at least with the Celtics and the Pistons, I don't know how the Lakers handled theirs when they lost and all that. But the Celtics, when they beat the Pistons, they walked off before the game was over. Other than Kevin McHale, who was friends with Isaiah Thomas, Larry Bird, Parrish, the rest of them, they walked off early, just like the Pistons did. They just didn't walk right by their bench. So it's I think that was interesting. That was the third thing I really took out of this is there still appears to be some type of beef there. If not between MJ and Isaiah, maybe there is there, but certainly between, it seems, the Bulls and the Pistons.